Welcome to the Healing Journey Part 4. This is our final chapter in this series. And if you're just starting off, you're going to want to go back and start with Part 1 because obviously we've been through a lot here. We started with vitality, the shrinking world where you have to start giving up things that you enjoy doing, the abyss where you recognize that there's a problem internally. We crossed through the first gate with that problem recognition. We're asking for help. And then so often what happens is the invalidation of the inadequate solutions, the simple solutions coming in with silver bullets. And all of a sudden, the whole medical establishment, the people in your life may start to question what's actually going on with you. Are you really sick? You don't look sick. We've covered all this. We've gone through the second gate where we realize that there's a more complicated problem. We've covered the lonely path where you stay up late on forums, researching medical conditions, looking on Google. We've passed through the third gate with the recognition of complexity. This is a really important pass because now we're in that third phase where the actual real whole systems healing starts to happen. And now that we have that whole systems understanding, we start to create a plan that will start to create empowerment. So what does empowerment mean? It means being able to identify triggers that are holding you back, as well as knowing what to do if you have a crash or flare or a Herxheimer or any other setback. Because healing is nonlinear, but that's not a cop-out. That doesn't mean we just surrender to the complexity of the healing journey and throw our hands in the air. Instead, we look at these flares, we look at Herxheimers, we look at setbacks, we look at the bad days that do happen in reality, and we use our 4-stage model to understand how far did I get set back? What stage am I at now? How can I work my way forwards? So that we're never lost. We don't get lost in the forest here. We know where we are. We use natural treatments. We start gently. This way we can gauge and interpret the feedback from your body. And if things are working well, then we stick with it and we turn it up a little bit. And if not, that feedback then tells us how to pivot. And this is such an incredible realization. When you get to this point in the healing journey, there's no more fear of failure because you can't do treatments and strategies and try things, supplements, herbs, whatever it is, and then fail. Instead, you're going to get feedback one way or another. Either this thing is helping your body get better or it's not. And once we have a whole systems understanding, we can use that information. If this didn't work, now we know what to pivot to next. So you should never not know what to do. That's a big part of the empowerment stage. And of course, I use the metaphor of climbing the mountain. That is getting your health back. It's climbing the mountain. And you can get a very experienced guide who can show you the best path, but it's still your climb. This is where the ownership of your health comes into play in a massive way because this is empowerment, right? Having guidance, having help, having support, it's incredibly important. It's vital. It's crucial, right? You can't do this by yourself. And at the same time, that doesn't mean that everyone around you does things for you. You want to start to really take control over your ownership in your healing process. And this is where, at this point of empowerment, that becomes so important. So much of the discouragement and the frustration and the alienation that comes from earlier points along the healing journey have to do with using the wrong tools for the job. Now, I know I've gone through this before, but it bears repeating, especially at this stage in the game. When we have, remember the square? Simple, right? The telescope, these simple solutions, simple perspectives. They're looking at your mountain and they see a triangle, right? It's just not granular enough. It doesn't take into account all of the complexity of your situation. And likewise, when we start looking with a microscope and we look under this complicated framework where we're trying to analyze everything down to its reductionist constituent parts and one little micromolecule in your body that needs to be measured and adjusted, we missed the point. Remember, we had that tiny little mountain on the microscope? The person looking in there has no idea what a mountain even is. They're looking at chemical composition samples. And both of these, it's not your fault and it's not the practitioner's faults. These are paradigms. These are mental frameworks. These are belief systems that can serve a purpose and can be helpful. Yet, however, if you have a truly complex health situation, then none of these things are going to really tie a bow in your problem for you. There's going to be loose ends. You're going to fall through the cracks. And that's why we evolve up through the third gate and we start to recognize complexity. We start to understand this actually is a complex problem and we need, yes, the simple framework, the complicated framework, they can be helpful, they can be important, but what we really need is to understand how to navigate that complexity. And that's what we've done in the whole systems. Once you get to that point, you're ready to really start on this journey of empowerment. And this is a whole separate chapter in your healing journey. So this is what it looks like when you're working with someone who understands complexity. It's more of a guide. I love that mountain. I respect it. I take groups up there every day, right? This is somebody who has their hands and feet on the problem. They're working with it. They understand how it moves and how it changes. They're not just spying on it through a telescope and they're not just dissecting it through a microscope. It's not an easy climb. You have to earn it, right? But the view from the top is incredible. Fortunately, there are landmarks so we don't get lost. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this looking familiar? We start to look at our 4 stages of healing. This is how we take a seemingly difficult and perilous and maybe endless journey, and instead we start to segment it into these landmarks: immune system, digestive, neuroadrenal, blood circulation. And what's happening here, if you look at the mind of your guide, is they're unfolding the complexity. They're taking it apart without losing any of the detail, taking it apart into something easy to understand. Now we have a plan. We'll take it in stages. Also, there's a lot to be aware of, right? It's not that dead simple kind of thing. We don't want to oversimplify this. Just because we have stages doesn't mean we can ignore the environmental complexity around, which is the same thing for your healing process, right? There's going to be triggers. There's going to be weather changes. There's going to be stressors. There's going to be foods that maybe you shouldn't have eaten, or maybe you didn't have a choice and you were kind of with your family and you had to go with the flow, or you were traveling. Or maybe there's going to be stress around the holidays or family events, family occasions. Maybe there's going to be late nights where you have to stay up. Maybe you're driving too much. Maybe you're getting eye strain. There's a lot of imperfect variables. And just like in real life, we can also look at this mountain climb metaphor, right? There's a lot to be aware of here. If we're going to make it to the top, we need to study the landscape. We need to know the sunny places. We need to know how the winds move, where the clouds form, how the water moves. And also, some of the others here are already making their climbs. So we can learn from where they're getting caught, where they're getting hung up. We can start to get feedback from others in our supportive group, and we can start to all help each other up this mountain. Whole different deal than looking through a telescope or a microscope, right? You shouldn't have to be so alone in this process whatsoever. And similarly, if you've got a good guide who has experience, they know what that process is like, and they know what kinds of tools you need ahead of time. So a good guide will be ready with gear, right? With the right equipment, the right tools, the right resources, so that you're set up for success and a relatively easy climb. Of course, your guide can do all these things to prepare. The guide knows the path through the stages. The guide is leading groups every single day. The guide knows where people tend to get stuck. The guide knows what equipment to bring. Yet, the guide can't control the weather, right? Of course, there's going to be variability. There's going to be some chaos. There's going to be some things that are outside of everybody's control. Yet, we persist because we develop an internal empowered state. No matter what the weather, we're going to keep climbing. You want to have these steps. And what's really great about working within this model is that we've accounted for reality, which is imperfect. Meaning, when people go through this process and they start out with all this kind of hot mess thing going on, right, of symptoms, and they start getting better, and some of their stage 1 symptoms are going away, we're getting these graduation signs that, hey, it's time to advance, go to stage 2, and they're doing great, doing great, doing great. And we get to this place where you're living your life, right? You're having less fatigue, less pains, none of that flu-like inflamed thing, the swelling's going down, right? You're trying to manage your triggers, not getting mold hits and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes a trigger will come, right? Or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or whatever. We can't always control that. And what happens that's really great, really great, I know this doesn't sound great, but it is great, is that when you get set back by a trigger, because you will, okay? It doesn't bring me any pleasure to say that, but life's not perfect, okay? We have setbacks, we have flare-ups, we have things happen. But what's really great about it is that when you get set back, you will know, because you're educated and trained, you will know which stage you got set back to. It's kind of like that chutes and ladders game where you don't go all the way back to 0, right? But you maybe go down a couple levels and you realize you can start to assess your situation and go, oh, I got hit with a couple triggers. I was doing great. And now I'm here. So I need to work stage 2 again. I need to focus on those types of self-care practices, those types of herbs, those types of strategies. And I need to get my way back up. I can't tell you how liberating this is to be able to have a model where when you get set back, you're not back in the abyss, just grasping, right? For anything, like a drowning person. It's not that. Once you have this structure, nobody can take that away from you. You will learn your body in a different way. So I'll put the kettle on and then let's rock and roll, right? This is a good guide. This part of the healing journey, the empowerment, is defined by feeling an increased sense of control over your own health over time with an eye towards realistic medical independence. And this is huge because remember earlier in the journey, it's defined by so much lack of control. And if we do this right, you will start to actually feel in your bones that you have more and more control over your own health. Medical independence means over time, you become less dependent on external interventions, not more dependent. This is in stark contrast to the status quo and what's generally out there. As people become more and more dependent on meds, pharmaceuticals, supplements, herbs, everything, we don't want to foster dependence. We want to actually use our whole systems understanding to create a path towards realistic medical independence for you, which means that you're starting to take control over the things that you need and don't need externally. The healthier your body gets on the inside, the less external intervention it's going to need, the more independent you can become even as you age. This is what I mean about empowerment, right? Because it changes from, oh, Jeremy, what do I do? What do I do? To all of a sudden I see people as we're working together and they go, Jeremy, this is what happened. Here's how I'm thinking about it. Do you have any other thoughts? Right? This is a whole different deal. These are patients that are taking their health into their own hands. And we have this goal of medical independence, which I'm going to write down because it's important, right? And this can look different for different people. Medical independence doesn't always mean no medicine of any kind, right? Some medical independence means that they're taking less of the pharmaceuticals they were on, or they don't need pills to fall asleep. Some people, they've got a supplement drawer with like 150 bottles of supplements that they've accumulated, which I'm not against supplements at all, right? I like supplements. The thing I'm against is not having a plan. When you don't have a plan, you wind up with a drawer full of stuff. It's eating up your kitchen, right? So medical independence might be that they're able to get rid of a lot of that stuff or navigate the supplements they're taking. Medical independence means that you start to develop a deeper intuition with your body, that you learn how to trust that intuition because it's been there all along, but also we train it. We train that intuition so that it's more clear and more accurate. And you can, instead of trying to figure out what's going on, you can immediately go stage 1, stage 3. And then the third thing is we actually arm you with things you can use, right? Different techniques like breath work, breathing practices, self-care practices, self-massage, acupressure. Like I like a lot of the stuff that you can do at home and that you can do anytime with no equipment or anything like that. And there's also herbs. You learn to look at your foods this way too. You can categorize your foods in terms of how they're going to affect your immune system or your blood circulation. Really fascinating. Once you open your third eye up to this stuff, you're going to have a radically different existence. So I enjoy the medical independence part, and I know it looks different for different people, but that's always our goal, is to get more and more independence so that when life does happen, right, and you do get a setback, that you're not back flailing around in the middle of the abyss. There are specific beliefs in the empowerment phase. There is no more failure. Everything is feedback and growth. We discussed that earlier, right? We're reinterpreting. We're now taking things that, oh, it didn't work. Oh, I don't understand. Now we do understand. We can figure out why it didn't work, and we can use that information to then navigate and figure out what the next step should be. If supplement A didn't work, then we need to know to pivot to supplement B. Have a plan. Also, if I don't quit, I won't fail. This is massive. This is the climb. This is the mindset that'll get you up the mountain. The only way to fail is to quit. Otherwise, we're going to be zigging and zagging, and we're going to be dealing with the weather and setbacks, and that's understandable, and we knew it ahead of time. So we don't need to let that scare us off the mountain. One bad day. It's okay. Happens to everybody. But guess what? If you've got a supportive group and you've got a guide that knows what they're doing, and you're starting to develop the right mindset and cultivating a healthy respect for this process, and you've got the right tools, it's only a matter of time before you make it to the top. And what's waiting at the top of that mountain? Transformation. When we get to this point in the healing journey, we've respected your body and treated your healing in a systematic way, which means not only do we have a whole systems plan that accounts for complexity and the variability of the environment, but you're also internally taking ownership of the process because it's active participation, right? I can't pull you up the mountain. You're climbing too. You're part of a group. We're all doing it together, but you're the one putting one foot in front of the next. It's internalized incentives, right? You're taking your own empowerment. As this happens, you can't help but transform. And how do we know this? Well, people come back at this point in the journey and what they're saying is, I feel like a brand new person. Literally, quote, verbatim, I feel like a brand new person.
I mean, within 2.5, 3 weeks, it's just like my pain was gone. I mean, I could move, I could walk, I could do things that I'd not done, for a while. So I was so excited. I'm still excited. I tell everybody, I feel like a brand new person.
Right? We start to understand at this point that you're becoming a new person with a fresh start. And this is a person whose body doesn't generate illness or symptoms as easily. Because what's happening here is that symptoms, they emerge, right? They emerge from the underlying conditions. They emerge from the systems in our body. And as we tune up those systems, as we go through a comprehensive 4-stage process in order from start to finish, the systems in the body become more robust and stronger. And they stop compensating and having to lean on each other so much. And that means they stop creating symptoms. It's really quite interesting. You become a new person. You become a new type of person. You become the kind of person who doesn't generate illness as easily. Now, this is really lofty and really ambitious, but I'll tell you, we've seen it. And when people come back and say, I feel like a brand new person, right? That's a sign. That's the kind of belief that is signaling where they are in their healing journey. And I will tell you too, this can be scary for some people because even though this is positive change, like extremely positive change, it can also be frightening, right? Because our ego really doesn't like change. Our ego is afraid of change, even positive change, right? Just because it's different. And we tend to resist that. All of us do in some degree. So some people, if you have a really strong growth mindset, you can oftentimes push past that fear. But some people have, a little more anxiety of just kind of breaking their comfort zone. And just because we've been sick and ill for a long time, right? And we've gotten used to that and we've become comfortable with that. That doesn't mean that's healthy or right for us. So getting better oftentimes is uncomfortable and it can be scary. It really can. It really can because people, feel like a brand new person and it's like, well, now I've got to kind of redefine my identity. I've got to redefine my relationships. I've got to redefine my goals and what I want to do because I had planned on just being bedbound and hopeless because I didn't know I could get better. And now all those dreams I've given up, all those things I've said no to, all the relationships I've lost, I can decide now. I can start to take charge if I want to start to recreate those. What do I want to do with my future? It can be an intense point on the journey. It really can. But I also consider this a success problem because once we get your physical health sorted out, then you can start to take more and more active ownership over where you're taking your life. It goes beyond getting your life back. Now it's like, okay, you got your life back. Now what are you going to do with it? You're transforming. The transformation point on the healing journey isn't just mental and spiritual, like having a new outlook on life. It's literally looking and feeling like a brand new person, even physically. It's amazing. And when we look at this clip from Lord of the Rings, this is one of the best ways to illustrate this, is you can see the vitality coming back, right? As the spell was broken. Here we had a king that was cursed, right? And he was cursed and he had the vitality sucked out of him. And as they broke the curse, all of a sudden he's starting to come back to himself. And you can see it happening. Now, this is something that seems really grandiose and mythological, but maybe you remember in the beginning, I showed you the physical changes. Here's one of our members going through the program, documented her eyes in the beginning, and then after 1 year, and then after one more year. And you can see these marked transformations. This is exactly like what I showed you here, right? It's the same deal. You can see the life coming back physically. It's not going to happen in 10 seconds, right? This is a 2-year process, but this is what happens when you climb the mountain the right way. There's a physical transformation that anybody can see. You can see the health of this person's body, the vibrancy starting to come out and radiate through their eyes. The eyes, the window of the soul, right? The physical health is coming back, the physical vitality, the glow. And guess what? What do you think's happening with this person's spirit, right? They're waking up from a spell. They're starting to get their future back. They're transforming. And we also know this by what people say. Here's a report back from one of the members that went through the program. This year has been the most transformational year for me in all my 66 years, not only in improving my physical health, but amazingly in my emotional. And she goes on to tell some more personal stories. So I kind of cut that part out for her privacy. But this is the kind of feedback we get. And when we start speaking like this, that's a really big sign that this is the point we're at. We're at the transformation point in the healing journey. The point of transformation is defined by feeling like a brand new version of yourself. You know it when you feel it. It's a fresh start on life, backed up by the wisdom that you've earned from experience. This is incredibly powerful. And again, here's what it looks like. Hi, Jeremy. I've turned the corner. I feel like I made it past the final switchback ascending up the mountain. I've had 7 consecutive unstoppable days, and I feel so close to being able to confidently say I am healthy and don't have complex chronic health conditions, right? This is a transformation. This is a new version of yourself. And these are the beliefs that come along in the transformation point in the healing journey. I don't identify as someone with an illness anymore. I feel like a brand new person. You got your whole life ahead of you. And with your whole life ahead of you, what do you start to do? Well, you start to expand your world. This is where we counter number 2 up on the right, the shrinking world. This is the opposite of that. We've come almost full circle here. We've gone to the depths. We've gone through some very dark places, right? There's the abyss, invalidation, the lonely path. There's a bright side coming up when we recognize complexity, and then we start to understand how to actually heal in a way that respects that complexity without oversimplifying it, with a 4-stage process, with a plan. And now we've come up, we've transformed, and we have now a re-expanding world. And this is what an expanding world looks like. You have a future again. Maybe you're going to travel. Maybe you're going to be more romantic. Get more creative. Plan events for your loved ones. Just be there for your family. Do spontaneous things. Start those DIY projects back up, right? Home improvement projects, or you're redoing furniture. Things like that that you didn't want to do before because you didn't know if you'd have the energy to finish them. At this stage, you're generally waking up in the morning feeling alive, feeling happy for the day. You feel like you want to get out there and live your life. Some people are a little superstitious at this point. I've had people come back and kind of confess that they were feeling so much better and they started re-expanding their world, but they didn't want to tell me about it because they didn't want to jinx it. It's this whole knock on wood thing, right? What if I lose all my progress? If I start to acknowledge how great things are, then, what if I go back? It's okay. You want to own this. You want to savor it at this point. Let your mindset grow. You're not sick anymore. You're not. You're a different person. We transformed in the last point on the healing journey. Now it's time to enjoy it and start re-expanding your world. And if something does happen, where there's a setback or a flare or whatever it is, you have confidence and you feel it in your bones that you have the tools and the strategies to handle it. And if you need some support, you've got some support. But with all the empowerment, you start to know how to maneuver. When life starts to deal you a weird hand, or you hit triggers, or you get a mold hit, or you had to stay up late, or you were doing a road trip or whatever it was. Or another one that happens too is the not just overwork, but overplay, right? Making up for lost time. Well, I feel better now. I'm going to start going out dancing and I'm going on vacation. I'm going traveling. And all of a sudden, people are living like their 19-year-old on spring break when they're in their 50s or 60s. But it's because, there's a lot you missed out on and you're making up for lost time. And that's fair enough. I get that. I respect that. And at the same time, it's always interesting when that happens and then you wind up with a little bit of a setback or a flare because you were just going like too hard, right? And we have to relearn our limits. But at the same time, when that happens, we've got tools, we've got strategies. You have a whole systems perspective. This is one of my favorite success stories that we had from one of our members in terms of a re-expanding world. She got a puppy. This is my new partner. I rescued her and she is rescuing me, right? I didn't know if I was going to be able to enjoy this again. We walk, play, go for rides together. She fills my heart. Not everybody's an animal lover, but this still represents so much. This represents having the future, having the confidence to say, yes, I can take this animal on and I can feel confident that I'll be able to take care of this animal. I've had other people come through that had dogs, big dogs, right? Like this dog's probably going to be pretty big. This is a little puppy. But I've had people come through and part of their shrinking world was they had to give up walking their dogs because they had big dogs like German Shepherds and Dobermans and things like that, Labradors. They were too strong. And as the person was losing their vitality, they were feeling like they couldn't control the dogs on the leash. They were getting hurt when the dog would pull, so they had to stop walking their dog. And then they go through a process, 4-stage, whole systems process, comprehensive, get their vitality back, transform, become a new person. Guess what? They're out walking their dogs again, and they're feeling confident. And now we have that quality of life. These things may seem like small wins, right? Small victories, like being able to walk your dog or get a puppy. But that's what life is. That's quality of life. It's all these little things. That's where we find the magic and the beauty and the richness in life. And anyone who's gone through the shrinking world where you start to lose those things knows automatically the grief that comes when you start to miss out on the little things. So seeing these things come back, it really, really lifts me up. Here's another one. Dream trip to New Zealand. She thought she never could do it. Fatigue, fibromyalgia, inflammation made traveling a nightmare. We go through a process, 4 stages, go up the mountain. Comprehensive, right? All of a sudden she's in New Zealand sending me pictures from the beach talking about hiking 12 kilometers. That's a decent hike, right? 2 hours on the beach as a reward. It's beautiful. Getting out to explore, having morning coffee, looking at the Pacific, hanging out on beach towns, wine regions, sampling the wines of New Zealand, right? This is a great trip. And this is somebody who before couldn't even have imagined being able to do this. But it's because she stuck with it. She learned, right? This isn't something anybody can do for you. When you get to this point in the process, you've got the empowerment and you know what to do and you start to own this. Nobody can just grab your brain and take all the whole systems thinking out of there, right? Once you've got it, you've got it. And now you've got a transformed life and it's time to start re-expanding your world. Here's another one of our members went through. I have a win to share. I was helping my daughter warm up by playing volleyball with her in the park so she could join some guys in their game, and they asked her if I wanted to play as well. I guess they thought I was fit enough to keep up with them by how I was moving while warming her up. Now, what you don't know is that when I first encountered this person, one of the things she said was, I just wish I could feel healthy enough to play volleyball with my daughter again. I miss it. It's a special way we bond. It means a lot. I haven't been able to do it. Pain, fatigue, inflammation, all that. But guess what? We're not going to get anybody playing volleyball again by using simple solutions, silver bullets. We're not going to get anybody playing volleyball again by using shotgun approach, complicated, messy solutions. The only way to do this and have it last is to understand the complexity and navigate that and unfold that complexity into a 4-stage healing process, and then transfer the empowerment and the ownership of that process so that this woman, even if she has a setback or a flare, she knows what to do to get her body feeling stronger again so that she can have these quality moments hanging out with her daughter, bonding over an activity together while her daughter's still living with her, right before her daughter's grown and moved out and that period of time is over in her life, right? She's really getting the most out of this parenting. The expanding world is defined by getting back to living your life and doing the things you love. It's the opposite of the shrinking world. Being spontaneous, having fun, laughing, dancing, traveling, romance, creative projects, whatever you're up to. When you're at the point in the healing journey where your world is expanding again, some of the beliefs that come are, I'm confident to say yes to life. I have a future now. I can do it, right? It's exciting. It's a really exciting time. But there is a pitfall because every now and then we've been using illness as an excuse not to do things, right? We must confront this. This is a little bit dark. I do try to go into these taboo topics because it's really important. When you have success with your healing process, that may put you in a position where you need to confront some of the decisions you've been making. And people will do all kinds of things where they have boundaries that still need to get worked on. So for example, if there's somebody in your family that's really toxic and you've been using illness as an excuse to not have to deal with them, right? Oh, I can't come to, thanks for the invitation, but I can't come to your house for Thanksgiving because I've got fibromyalgia or I've got a really bad migraine from mold or whatever it is. Now you feel better. You have your vitality, but then you lose those excuses. So you're going to have to confront this eventually and have that hard, difficult conversation with that person and try to enforce better boundaries, right? Likewise, if there's something you wanted to do, oh, I've always wanted to travel and go to New Zealand and hike and walk on beaches and sample wine, right? And that's what you're telling yourself. And then you're saying, but I can't because I'm sick, right? And then we take that sickness away because you've gone through a 4-stage process that's gotten your health back in a comprehensive way. And if that happens, then you find yourself still putting off that trip, right? Or making excuses, then maybe there's another reason why you're stopping yourself from going to do that. And that kind of inner conflict is the sort of thing that you're going to have to explore. You're going to have to learn yourself, right? So this is the warning here, is that if we can get you up to the top of the mountain, you're going to have a much wider view of yourself and of your life. And there may be things that come with that view that you need to tend to take care of. And it's okay. Give yourself compassion. Give yourself an opportunity to do this because you're still growing. And at this point, we've come full circle. We've gone all the way through the depths, the shrinking world, the abyss, invalidation, the lonely path, right? Doing all that research by yourself, finally getting a handle on whole systems, getting a plan that's comprehensive, following that plan, becoming empowered, transforming into a brand new person, re-expanding your world and doing all these things you love doing. And at a certain point, that vitality starts to sink back in and becomes part of your identity. And when you get here, you're back, but maybe even stronger than you were before you got sick. And definitely you're going to come to this point with better habits, more wisdom, and more appreciation for life. Try to remember you began this healing journey feeling fatigued, in pain, brain fogged, all the symptoms. And on the other side, you can actually come out stronger than the average person because you've learned now practices, principles, how to take care of yourself. How cool is that? Now that you have learned so much about self-care, at this point, the vitality, you want to keep up your momentum. You want to preserve that vitality. You want to grow it. This is also the point where many want to give back and help others, meaning you've done a lap around the healing journey, and this might have taken you decades. So you have a wealth of experience, you have a wealth of wisdom. You want to stop other people from having to suffer. You want to speed up other people's paths so that they're not wasting decades, spinning their wheels in the first phase, looking for simple solutions, getting disappointed, or having to stay up late researching in the lonely path for years and years and years. You want to help, you want to give back. This is very common. Oftentimes people in this point in the healing journey are teaching their family healthier habits if the family's ready, if they'll listen, right? Which is another frustration we get. Hey, I've done a whole lap around this healing journey. Now I want to help my adult children and they're not listening to me, right? My spouse isn't receptive. What do I do? Well, guess what? Lead by example. Keep your healthy habits, take care of yourself, help other people, right? If they want to know things, they'll ask. You don't have to divert every single conversation into healing and getting better, right? But it's also very hard, I know, to watch your loved ones suffer and struggle. They will come to you when they're ready. Sometimes people at this point, they want to write a book or they start a blog. You become a living example of vitality in the modern world, right? Which is no small feat. So at this point, you've done a full lap around the healing journey, and hopefully a lot of the symptoms are in the past, identifying as having a disease is in the past, and guess what? You earned it. And as odd as it sounds, you may even feel grateful for all the pain, all the darkness, and all the struggle that got you to where you are. If you do that, if you follow a process like that, you can go from being sick, right? Oh, I don't feel good. I'm exhausted. I've got weird pains. I've got brain fog. I'm bedbound, all this stuff. You can go from that. Seriously, you can dig your way out of that pit. And when you get to the other side, you don't just stop at normal, right? You dig your way up and you don't just stop at normal. You actually have momentum and you keep going. There's the potential for you to dig yourself out of the pit of not feeling good. And when you come out the other side, you're actually stronger than the average person. We can find value in the suffering we've had as long as we can use it and extract it, right? Not just suffering for suffering's sake, not just having pain with no purpose, but instead looking at what are these lessons I've extracted? What wisdom have I gained from this experience, even though it's been unpleasant? And you'll find actually when you look and you zoom out, you're going to find that you know a lot of things that most people have no idea about. Vitality is defined by having the energy and enthusiasm to go out into the world and live your life fully. So imagine waking up feeling well rested, energized, and excited about what the day will bring. That is this point on the healing journey. And the way this is possible is to open up those gates, the first gate, the second gate, the third gate, with new beliefs. Because as we've learned, our beliefs are the passwords that open up those gates and reveal new potentials as we move forward in this healing journey. So I'm going to do a quick review of the beliefs that go along each point on this journey. And I hope that you can find places that resonate for you. And maybe you'll see some of where you're getting stuck if you are getting stuck. No matter where you are within this cycle, within this process, I hope that you can find your way to open up the next gate. So in the beginning, we had our shrinking world beliefs. This is just old age. It's my genetics. This is just who I am. I can't, I shouldn't. Maybe there's nothing wrong with me after all. Maybe this is just life and it just sucks getting older, right? That evolves. Of course, to get through that first gate, we have to evolve that. We have to recognize the abyss and then decide, yes, I need help. I deserve help. I am worth it. I have a mountain to climb. Although we enter the land of simplicity at this point, but at least we've recognized there's a problem. Then it comes invalidation. They say there's nothing actually wrong. It's all in my head. I don't look sick. And now again, we used to talk ourselves out of thinking there was a problem. Oh, it's just old age. And now this is the external world talking us out of it. Well, your labs look fine. You must be faking it, right? Or your family members or whoever that doesn't quite get it. No, there is something there, right? We have to outgrow this. We can't let them control our reality because we do know something's wrong. You have to learn to rely on yourself and your intuition and your inner truth. These beliefs evolve, and then you can pass that second gate. Of course, I'm not faking it. Why would I fake this? This is horrible. They don't know. I believe in myself. I'll find my own way. I'm not going to lay down and die. There must be a way, and I will find it. And we enter phase 2, right? The land of complication. Then we wind up on the lonely path with a new set of beliefs. These are more empowered, right? You can see these beliefs are evolving over time. I need more information. This is complex. Where do I start? It is complex, right? This complex problem. So I must need a really complex solution. I don't know what to do, right? Eventually we kind of give up a little bit. You can start to feel the overwhelm. You can start to surrender to the complexity. Yet the way through the third gate is to feel that complexity and realize and recognize the complexity and then embrace it and say, okay, this is complex. I don't need more information. I don't need to know everything. I need better information. I need to know the right things. I need the right information organized in a straightforward way. That's how I'm going to move forward. I need a realistic plan that accounts for complexity and absorbs it ahead of time. And then we meet a guide, right? Someone who can unpack this stuff and take it in stages without losing the detail and the nuance of this complex situation, which is healing from a chronic illness. And there it goes. We may as well unpack it one more time. Look at that thing. There's the stages. And once we start to understand whole systems, our beliefs evolve even more. My body is a complex system capable of healing itself if given the right interventions at the right time. Symptoms are a form of communication that arise from systemic causes, right? So we don't need to just blunt the symptoms. In order to heal for real and not simply mask symptoms, I need to follow the straightforward plan that doesn't ignore the complex nature of reality. And then we get to empowerment, right? We've set out, we're getting up the mountain. Guess what? There is no more failure. Everything is feedback and growth. If I don't quit, I won't fail. The only way to fail is to quit. Keep climbing. Even if you're moving backwards, you're still moving, and you know how to navigate the abyss. You've got a guide. You're in good company. It's a whole new set of beliefs. Eventually, we hit the point of transformation. I don't identify as someone with an illness anymore. I feel like a brand new person. And then the world re-expands, and we confidently say yes to life. I have a future now. I can do it. I'm going to do the things I wanted to do. There's nothing holding me back. And as we start to enjoy that re-expanding world and our sense of vitality starts to really sink in and become our new identity, we look back and we think about our new reality. I appreciate life and connection on a deeper level than ever before. Because once you lose things, once your world shrinks and then you get them back, the level of appreciation and gratitude is amazing. I'm going to live life to the fullest. I have gratitude for the process that's gotten me here, even the really hard parts. So we can see we've done the whole thing. Those beliefs evolve. There's a narrative, there's a story. And no matter where you are within this story, where your beliefs are, where you're getting stuck, there is a way to move forward. I would encourage you, if you're at all interested in getting your life back from illness, which is probably the most important thing you got on your plate right now, that you might consider applying for our group. You'll find the link in the description to this video. It's a great place to be. Again, it's free to apply as a guest, and it's international. I mean, we got people from all over the planet in there. They're lovely, positive, vibrant people. Everybody's working on healing. We're all very forward thinking, and it's respectful, and it's a nice place to be. So I cultivated the community myself. We don't let just anybody in. I do need to see your application. Got to find out if what's going on with you is a good fit for what we have in our group, right? But if there are solutions and there are support that we can offer you, why not, right? Why not dip your toe in the water and try something new? Try a whole new way of looking at things, right? Because what you've done in the past has gotten you to where you are now. And I'm here to tell you some of it may be timing. Some of it may be that you did the right thing at the wrong time. And with just a little bit of education, a little bit of perspective, you can start to organize a plan to get your life back and not have to be struggling and grasping for potential solutions all the time. So I'm going to leave you with that. And in the meantime, I think I'm going to go try and find a nice, ripe, juicy one that's ready, because timing is everything. All right, let's get you feeling better. Cheers.